Hi, Rakesh.
Hi Nija, how are you doing?
Good, good. What about you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful today.
All right, great. I hope we get your energy is rubbed off to all of us. Thank you so much for agreeing. Should we get started?
Yeah,
Perfect. All
absolutely.
right. Perfect. Thanks everyone for bearing with us and joining on time, most of you. Some of you as you're trickling in, otherwise, you know the repercussions, heads up. All right, we've got a very special alum of ours, that is Rakesh Kamath. A lot of you have had questions and queries regarding product management as a career, and this session is facilitated to make sure that you understand that, you know, how someone who started their journey, their career. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit about Rakesh before we just make sure that, you know, he spearheads the entire conversation. So getting quickly started with Rakesh's bio, and may I please request everyone to please put on your videos and make sure that you are on mute, okay? So Rakesh, as he himself says, he loves building products that transform the lives, and that's exactly particularly what a product manager actually does. He talks about product innovation, product management, and the way that he describes, sometimes we are telling you to look at the way people have described themselves on LinkedIn. His profile is definitely one of them. You should definitely take a look at it. Your friendly neighborhood product manager, very passionate about product leading, and has over 14 years of experience, as he says, conquering the digital mountains, quote unquote, right? He's currently working with Publicis Sapient as a senior product manager. And in case if I've mispronounced it, of course, he'll correct me. He's spearheaded a digital transformation for over a decade. Doesn't looks that old, and has got a beautiful family and a beautiful daughter that you can always see in the DP as well. Has worked across investment banking, neobanking, business and commercial banking overall. And as any product manager considers himself to be a storyteller. One thing which is very unique is he wants to translate complex tech, which a lot of us would not understand, into clear, relatable narratives. And he says that, you know, think of him as a bridge between the mountains of data and the peaks of the user experience of both of the things that we'll be talking about. I can, of course, go on and on because he's a seasoned pro in business analytics, project management, agile methodologies. And of course, in terms of education qualification, he is a Bachelor of Engineer, did his PGPM program at SOIL 2013-2014 batch, was a spectacular person at that. Of course, I can obviously continue with the laundry list of the achievements that Rakesh already has under his belly, but I will, under his belt, I will let you spearhead the entire conversation, Rakesh, and over to you for a quick introduction before we dive into the other conversation topics for today.
Thank you so much, Nirja. I think you've said so many things. I don't know what to say, but um, people who know me, uh, and let's take away the accolades out, right? People who know me consider me as someone who uh, connects the dots, tries to understand, and tries to empathize with the kind of people that we work with. So so we build. So I do a lot of IT product building and activities, and many a times there are individuals, and I'll probably talk about it, Nirja, right, as we go through this conversation. But often and not, um, you'll have to understand that you're not building products, in the shoes of the customer, right? So you'll have to also understand that you're building products from a shoes of the client, from the shoes of the business. So I generally keep correcting a lot of folks saying, don't always see yourself from the view or from the perspective of a customer, but also from a perspective of a user. And that of a client, right? So that's something that I bring in. Off work, of course. Thanks for mentioning my daughter. But yeah, so she's someone. She's about 1 year and 9 months old now. She keeps me busy. So I have gone and hidden myself in a separate room so that she doesn't come and bother me while I'm in a conversation with all of you, right? I love watching series on Netflix. I'm not a book person, so if people ask me, okay, what are the great books to read? I'm going to say I don't know. Um, the last book I read was The Lord of the Rings, right? It was years ago. I do watch a lot of great stuff on OTTs and stuff, which talks about some of the very key areas that we generally keep aside. So I'll probably talk about some of them. That's basically about it, Neja.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what has been really tremendously good about having you on board is because the way that you effortlessly, genuinely actually ease that product management jargon for everyone, and that is the reason it's always a pleasure hosting you. Tell us a little bit about how does this typical day look like? I know it's so difficult for us to even block your calendar for a session or two. Whenever we ask you, you have to look into your calendars. So just tell us, as a senior product manager, of course, everybody who probably is here who's an aspiring product manager may start their journeys from being an APM, an associate product manager, or perhaps like if different roles are there. So just tell us, how does a typical day for you look like? Is it juggling your tech, your product, your user experience, your empathy, your storytelling, your PRD? So what does a typical day look like for you as a product manager, as a senior product manager, the captain of the ship?
Right. I'm probably one of the 1,000 cogwheels in the vehicle that takes the product from 0 to 1, as I call it, right? Or 1 to n, depending on where the product is. But my typical day um, is very difficult for me to comprehend because there are so many things in parallel that happens during the day. That needs to be done for building the product. Better for me to explain this is from the life cycle of a product, right? So the first part of a product is always the ideation phase, the phase where you are hunting for ideas, you're trying to ignite a conversation um, with the customer, with the client, with the business that you want to really transform, right? So quite a bit, about 40% of my time goes in that kind of conversations. It to actually understand what the pain points are and what are the potential opportunities that come in. Like that takes about 40% of my time during the day. 20%, of course, gets into the 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 building of the product itself, right? That's about 20%. It's a small chunk because the 40% kind of supersedes the 20. The other bit is also about, okay, we've got the requirements from the customer, from the client, and then that needs to be translated to a way that my technical team can pick up and work on it. So before even getting into the building process, it's also about converting the ideas into something that's more tangible. So someone coming and saying that, you know what, I want to build, you know, I want to have an omelet doesn't really solve that problem for you because you need to understand a lot more deeper nuances about, okay, what kind of omelet, is it, um, um, is it a masala omelet like typically we have in restaurants, or are we making something really special? Are we trying to put in a bread on it and call it a French toast because that's something that will be a very different kind of a product? So a lot of these times converting ideas into backlog is something that takes about 40% of my time. And the rest is about, of course, meeting and talking with different stakeholders are trying to understand how the product has been built, because the what and the why is covered. It's all about the how, and it's about conversing with the design team, talking with the technical architects, understanding with marketing team on how the product needs to be marketed, look at the GTM strategy with some board members, also talk in steering committee meetings, doing demos to end users, all of that. That's about 20% of my time. So I mostly have covered about 100% of my day. And this is just between 2 p.m. in the afternoon till 7 p.m. in the evening. What I do in the mornings, learn, right? And that's something that I have been trying to do since I've joined uh, work. So a lot of these things require you to become, because you only have about 5-6 hours in a day to accomplish the 100%. So you need to be fast. You need to know what's happening in the world. You need to talk business, and all that comes from learning. That takes about 2-3 hours in the day that I spend time course on LinkedIn, writing about a lot of product management activities, and of course looking at what's happening in the business, what's new that's coming in terms of technology and so on. So that's basically how my day goes.
Absolutely. I think you said, like, the beginning part is all about learning, and I think that's going to be really important for any product manager. Now there are, and before we go ahead, I would urge all of you to please use the Q&A section of the chat box to just state any questions you have, or you can raise your hands also, so that we can make sure that we moderate those questions that are coming. But typically, there's a question that in case they want to start a journey as a product manager. I remember that I was interacting with ANB. And he said that you didn't have a focus course on product management back then, but still see what an incredible career journey you've had as a product manager. So typically right now, when there's more awareness about product management, there are courses that are available. So what can students right now here, in their college be better prepared at, or what are the things that they could probably do in terms of certifications or any other way through which probably they can accentuate the current knowledge that they are having? Because typically they get like they of course have project management, and the project management part of being a product manager, that's also something that a lot of people don't really like, and so there are those types of questions as well. But just tell us that in terms of college, what are the things that they can definitely do, any certifications, any free certifications if available, that will really put them at a pedestal, especially if they're also individually applying for such kind of roles.
Wonderful question, Neerja. And my view generally is understand the craft you're getting in, right? Product management is a craft. Product management, program management, project management, business analysis are all very, very different. Although there's a very thin line between all of them, each one of them have specific core activities and auxiliary activities. Core activities would be activities that are entailed to the role itself. Things like, as a product manager, you need to know how to write PRDs, right? That's the core of it. As a project manager, you need to know how to do the project charter, to build the project plan, and so on, right? And so on. So in terms of preparing yourself towards this role, I would want to first take a step back and ask all the aspiring product managers on call who are listening to me to actually understand what product management actually is. Because it's not, the motivations to actually get into this craft should be a complete understanding of what you are jumping to, whether it's getting into a role of an APM, or looking at a PM roles in any of these startups, or even looking at an internship opportunity, right? Understanding what you're getting through is very important. That's the first bit. So spend a lot of time looking at, there are a lot of videos on product management on YouTube today. That's the most easiest way to build that knowledge base, right? The foundation of it. And you can look at a lot of different folks who put some really good content. That can be your starter, right? 10 minutes of your time just looking at, okay, what product management is. Okay. Then move on to, okay, I know what product management is. This is what I want to get to. What's next? I want to spend time understanding what are the different areas that I need to build to become a good product manager. So that can be divided into activities that require documentation, stakeholder management, looking at the core of product management itself, where you're looking at what is product-led growth, how are you trying to build certain documentations like a one-pager for products, do some activities around it, and also read about certain actions that happen within the product community, right? What are some of the great products around you? Are you able to identify how they demarcate or differentiate themselves from other products which are in the market? And what is it one thing that is going to give that product the value that it wants to derive as part of this? Right, so these are some of the things that I would really want us to look at, and I think that's a great start towards product management. And of course, last but not the least is communication, because communication is key to building some great products. Because you'll have to understand what the customer is trying to convey, both at a communication level, at the way they are explaining the problem, but also inherently what is the subdermal level that the customer is trying to allude to, which you'll have to also capture. So that is something which is very important. And then you move into solving it, right? I always tell, and Nija, I know we've spoken about this in the past, right? I always tell, always start with a why, right? Simon Sinek says that, and it's not just for the sake of saying it, right? Always start with a why. Why does the customer even want this change? And then we move into, what that is and how do we change it, right? So it starts with the why, goes to the what, and then to the how. And that is where the learning will also come. Start with the why, go with the what, and then how do I get it, right? And there are ample of certifications. Product School is one. There are a lot of other places. You can go on Udemy, you can go on Coursera, and I'm sure there's so many freely available courses that you can do. Please don't do certifications just to put it in your resume. It's not, until you know the craft. If you just put something just platonically on your resume, you will be questioned, and that will become very difficult. So start looking at it from, okay, how can I learn? If you have the knowledge, certifications will just accentuate it. It will not really, it's not something that will let you cross the bridge. It will enable you to cross the bridge. That's how certifications, according to me, works. And one other very, very important thing, uh, to be extremely active on LinkedIn, because a lot of conversations and knowledge sharing happens on LinkedIn. People write some magnificent posts on LinkedIn about product management, about strategy, about leadership, uh, that you can really, really listen to, read about, and even watch sometimes, because they'll even speak, right? Um, and that's great, and it can come from anyone. It doesn't need to be from some really, um, influencer of sort coming and telling you that this is good. There are people like you and me, right? People who are not influencers, who are also posting some really great content, and you should be one of them. So you start writing about it as well, because there could be a potential recruiter would probably get interest on what you've written, and actually may reach out to you asking for you to be part of something great. It may not be a job, but it at least may be a gig, right? A short-term gig for you to build that credibility and take it forward. So that's something that's what I would want to stop with, Nirja. That's my
Right, right, absolutely. The gig gives you like a proof of work also that you can put it. That's more convincing than just putting these hollow certifications, which everybody would know that you wouldn't have done it wholeheartedly. Now, there are also a lot of doubts, like you clarified that there is an APM. There are these fancy words coming in like a chief product officer or product marketing manager, and there's another question regarding that. And we've also got like two questions. So Kesar, Vaibhav, and others, we're just going to be taking that particular question of yours. But typically, the career trajectory of a product manager, how did you start? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your own journey, that how did you reach the senior product management, and what are the other typical fancy words like the user experience researcher, product marketing manager, chief product officer, or product owner, as they say, right? And the list is endless to these various names that we are having. So please just tell us, what is a typical career trajectory for a product manager, and what was
good.
your trajectory?
Yeah, I had a very different, um, a career trajectory of a product leader. Let me put it like that. A career trajectory of a product leader is like snake and ladders, right? That's how it works. I generally don't go with jargons, but if I can just loosely put that in, right? You would start with, in a product management standpoint, each organization has its own different way of identifying um, a product manager. So some organizations look at roles like you start with an intern product management, an intern PM, moving to an associate product manager, and then move to a product manager. From a product manager, you move to a senior product manager, and then you become a group product manager. Then you move to a CPO, right? Um, um, Chief product manager, or or even a CPO for that matter, right? Which is a chief product officer, right? This is probably a more platonic level of looking at it. Uh, uh, there are also other ways in which the identification is done, where you move from a intern to an associate, uh, to a manager, to a senior manager, and move to a director, vice president, and so on. So there are different ways of looking at it. I would probably take that conversation away, Nirja, and I would want to put it a little more differently. You start with an internship position, you move to a junior product manager level, then you move to a senior product manager level, and then you move to a product leader level, and that's it, right? That should be a career growth. So that is, you can become a product leader even if you are a product manager in terms of hierarchy. You can also be a product leader even if you are a senior product manager in an organization. Because a product leader comes with two ailments. One is your core competence, which is product management, and the second one is being a thought leader, which means you have a very good, well-sounded opinion about either practices, policies, products, or even organizations and businesses for that standpoint. So you start with an intern where you say, okay, I'm just an intern and I want to just learn about this craft. Then you move towards, I want to build the craft, but I wouldn't want to get into the conversation where I am doing an ideation process where you become a senior product lead manager. And then you move to a product leader where you start actually looking at opportunities and building products individually, independently. That's the way I would want to look at this. And it's more about, and of course, all of this, the y-axis is learning, right? As you go upwards, your learning will increase more and more. It doesn't decrease. So that is how you'll have to look at this particular role and the way this works.
Right. Before we take the next set of questions, there's a student question which says that how can a non-tech background get into product management roles? You are from tech background, but
I'm
still,
not
I'm
from tech
sure.
background.
But you've done your engineering, no?
Oh yeah, wonderful question, Nirja. So I did my engineering in biotechnology, right?
Oh, okay, that's
so,
interesting. Maybe we should
so
mention it categorically. That's really interesting. So this
yeah.
question is, Kesar
So
Weber, you can also unmute yourself, and if you have a follow-up question, you can ask.
So I'll answer this in a very different perspective. So I met this very senior product leader during one of my conversations, where we were building a big product for one of our clients, right? And this leader didn't know anything about the technology bit. So he was struggling with the technology, right? And one thing that I would tell you is you don't have to sit and code. You don't have to sit and literally, you know, type in lines of code or understand the nuances of our technology works. What's important is to look at what is important is to look at, okay, do you understand what is being developed? Do you understand the basics of software development? Because at the end, if you are a product manager, you'll be building a product, and a product is built on technology. So do you know the technology, right? Do you know what's the difference between, say, something at the front end? Do you understand those technologies? Do you know what it is? If someone tells you Angular, if someone tells you um, um, C++ or Java, or someone tells you about Azure or Google Cloud, do you understand what these jargons are? And then you take it to the next level where you start building those knowledge. But my understanding is someone who's non-technical will probably do better than someone who's technical, because you will have the urge to build, and therefore the ability to learn something new. So learnability is something that is always looked at by many organizations.
Right, right. Kesar Weber, I hope that answers your question, child. In case if you have a follow-up, you've got like the correct platform for mentorship right now. Supriya Singh is asking that, sir, what advice would you give to someone who's starting out as a product manager? Supriya, do you want to unmute and give more context to this?
Yeah, I would like to understand. So one other thing that I would request everyone is, a lot of conversation happens. So I'm not looking at anyone who's not turned on their video, right? So in front of me, I can only see Nirja right now. And that's how I'll keep it. Because the moment I don't see people, I can't relate to them, right? So it's perfectly okay if you're at home, if you're using your mobile phone, if you're having your dinner, if you're and that's perfectly okay, because we all are. It's post 7 p.m. in the evening. I just got off a workshop and I'm here. So I just request everyone to turn on their video so that when I look at you, I relate to you, and some of you will come to me, not now, maybe in a few years, and you're going to remind me of this meeting, and I should be able to recognize you by your face, right? So, Nirja, to answer your question that has been asked, someone who's starting as a product manager, well, I would say persevere towards becoming a product manager, right? Start understanding what this means. I think that's the basics of everything that you do. Don't do it because someone has told you that this is a very lucrative role. That is the biggest lie in the world. If someone tells you that a product manager earns crores of rupees as salary, hello, good morning, wake up. That's how it is, right? Does not work that way. Yes, you will eventually reach that number, but that number gets to you only if you have the competence to earn it. So you will never get it because you're a product manager, no? And if I colloquially in Hindi say it, salary de do because product manager hai. No, that's not how it works, right? You need to build that competence and you'll have to build that capability where people should know you by the work that you do, right? That's my advice to people who are starting out on product management. And one very important thing, find a mentor. Find someone who's from the industry, find someone who you think can guide you through it. It can be someone who knows the craft of product management, doesn't need to be someone who's working as a product manager. You can also reach out to your professors or someone who's at a leadership position who interacts very frequently with product managers as well, who could help you with what exactly they do, right? That is my word of advice, Nirja.
Right, right.
And I'm very thankful that people are actually turning on their videos. Makes me really, really happy to see a lot of these faces on a Monday morning. Thank you so much for turning on the video. I feel very, very good seeing all of you.
Yes, thankfully.
Sir,
Otherwise, yeah. Supriya, go ahead. Yeah.
sir, what are the some common challenges that you face as a product manager? Could you please explain a little bit more about that?
Okay, so so this batch all of you are probably from the 2-year MBA program.
That's
Do
right.
I have anyone from the 1-year MBA program in this? If you are, do not unmute yourself and say, Rakesh, you already repeated this when you came to SOIL, right? So, Supriya, to answer your question, let me ask you. I'll do this exercise, Nirja. This session may take a little longer, but it's going to
Please.
solve all
Yeah.
these questions that everyone has.
Please.
Supriya,
Yeah.
are you a vegetarian and non-vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? Did I lose her?
Supriya, go ahead and answer. Are you a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? I think her camera has frozen. Do you want to do this experiment with somebody else?
Yeah, anyone else who
Ma'am,
wants to? I can
I'm
hear. Okay.
I'm pure vegetarian.
You're a
Okay.
pure vegetarian. So consider that you have come to Kamath Hotel because I'm Rakesh Kamath, and it's a pure vegetarian hotel, pun intended, right? I don't own the Kamath Hotels, by the way. We are recording, so I can tell you with all honesty. So Supriya, you've come to Kamath Hotels, which is very popular in the south, not that much in the north. But if I ask, if I am the owner and you have come down and I don't give you the menu and I ask you, Supriya, what's your favorite dish? What will you say?
Sir, that would be that would be my favorite only. Apart from your menu, I can say that I love South Indian food.
I don't care about. I mean, forget it's a South Indian restaurant. Forget everything. If I ask you what's your favorite dish, what would you say it is?
I would say litti chokha.
Litti
That
chokha.
is,
Fine, wonderful. So litti chokha 101, right? Uh, so what do you what is the kind? What do you want to have litti chokha with? What kind of dish you would want? Do you want to make it spicy?
yeah.
Yeah. You want to make it? Should it be hot or should it be lukewarm? Should it be
Yeah,
cool?
it must should be hot.
Okay. Should it be made with besan or should it be made with atta or a mix of both?
Atta.
Okay. So now the question I'll ask you, Supriya, when you go to a restaurant, does the waiter ask you these questions?
No, sir.
Why doesn't the waiter ask you these questions?
Because they just gave me menu, and I know well about what kind of if I want litti choka, I know well that it's made by the flour itself, not by a basin and all.
Right. So one of the biggest myth and the biggest challenge that I face is I have users and I have clients like you who tell me, Rakesh, we know our job. We know what we want. And you don't have to tell us what we want.
Okay.
And that is my biggest challenge. You know why, Supriya?
No, sir.
The reason why this is the biggest challenge is because Supriya as an individual doesn't understand that she may be intolerant to gluten, which is in wheat. So there are people who are having intolerance to wheat. It's like an allergy which doesn't allow them to digest wheat. So can those people have litti choka? No.
No, of course no.
But did I ask you whether you are gluten intolerant?
No.
No. So whose fault is it if I give you something and if you are a gluten intolerant person,
Sure.
it can really take you to the next level where you may have to get hospitalized
Yeah.
because of your favorite dish, litti choka. That is the core. That's the biggest challenge because users don't understand at times that there are a lot of other nuances that has to be considered when a product is built. Very simple example. Let's take a finance example, right? So that you understand this better. How many of you have called customer care at ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank for your
Yeah,
credit
many
cards?
times.
Many times. So how many of you have noticed recently that many of these banks have started asking questions about, instead of them asking you for an IVR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's someone who says, why don't you tell me what you want and I will try to redirect you to that particular portal. How many of you have experienced that?
Yeah, sir. They used to say like this.
They used to say this, right? So a few weeks back, I had put this on Twitter, and I think after that, ICICI Bank may have taken it off. I don't know. That often not, they have built this AI bot of sorts, which will ask the customer to tell what the customer wants. And then instead of taking the customer to say, I want a new card for a new credit card issued, or I have an issue with my addresses, it says, I don't understand what you're saying and redirects you to the IVR anyway. That is one. The second problem is it asks you to say what you need the telephonic chatbot to redirect to, but doesn't realize that you may be a mute person or you may have speech disability and you won't be able to speak or at least speak accurately what you need. So there is some product manager at the back who has not thought this through. That is the biggest challenge of product management. I've given you 2 examples for you to ponder, Supriya. I hope you have
Yeah, sir.
answered
Thank
your
you.
question.
Yeah, sir.
Awesome. Nirja, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. I think that experiment really was helpful. There is this basically coincides with the next question that we typically have that, a long time back, a lot of product management interviews will have guesstimates. They'd have a lot of these role plays. They'd have a lot of these questions. Has the industry scenario changed in, say, the past 1 year? What kind of questions typically can one expect when they're giving a product management interview? What are the various what are the
Yeah,
various things that they should be definitely mindful of when they are trying to crack a product management interview?
wonderful question, Nirja. So if you're looking at a product management interview at some of these top FANG companies, right? It's a very rare occasion where a guesstimate question is asked. So a simple thing that you'll have to think about is when you're posed in front of the client and you're posed in front of your customer and trying to build a product for a certain functionality, the guesstimate will probably help you with your interview, but not with this problem. 90% of product managers don't care how many balloons you can fit inside an airplane. The bigger question is, why do you want to fit X number of balloons within an aeroplane? That's the bigger question. So one of the things that I would want all of you to do, right? About 207 of you, wow, that's like a big number. And even if 20 of you can do this as a regular activity, I can guarantee, right? You would easily crack any interview for product management, even if 20 of you do this. So there are questions typically that are asked is, what is your favorite product? And what would you do as a product manager to improve it? There are some other questions where they'll give you a problem revolving around some KPI, some OKRs, which will not work. OKR is objective and key results, and KPI is key performance indicators for people who don't know the full form. The idea is to for you as a product manager to identify, okay, what those KPIs are, what has gone wrong, and how do you solve it? How do you ensure that the KPIs are met? Some other questions that are also asked are about things that you understand about product management, like what is product-led growth? What are the 2 or 3 key activities you would do? How would you do a sales pitch to a client on an elevator? How would you do that? So there's some very simple questions that are asked, right? But I think to even take the conversation ahead in those interviews, what you need to do is what is called as a product tear down. A product tear down is basically you look at a particular product which is there in the market. It can be any product, right? It doesn't need to be an app. It can be anything. It can be it can be a bottle of Coke. It can be an Himalaya moisturizer. It can be an HP laptop. It can even be a Quality Walls ice cream. And you do a product tear down. A product tear down is basically an activity where you would look at, okay, if I break this down into smaller components, how are these components actually making this product the product for people to buy, right? And if it's not, then what does the product team need to do to make sure that this product becomes the product to be looked at? And then you do market research around it. You find out the competitor. You do a SWOT. So for people who don't know SWOT, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. You would also want to look at how these products are actually transforming the industry. What are the kind of revenue those companies are generating? What's the slice of the pie that this product is taking out of the wider technology gambit, and so on and so forth, right? There are a lot of, I don't want to sell myself by, but I'll still pitch in, right? Do go on my LinkedIn. You will find a post where I've actually done a product tear down and a template of how to do it, right? And I'm not the only one. There are a lot of people today, a lot of product managers. One of the first things that they do when they post stuff is they talk about product tear down. So I think you should start, as if you're preparing for these roles, start looking at what product tear down is. So you try to do user persona, right? What kind of users are? What do they do? What is their journey? How are they actually using the product? What is the kind of benefits they're able to get out of it? These are some of the areas that you can focus on. And if you are good at some of these things, then you can really build yourself as a product manager.
Maybe we're going to be inviting you for the next product tear down challenge, which maybe as next steps, the marketing society can probably note it down.
Yeah, there's actually one going on where I'm mentoring a group of people who are actually product managers. The tear down competition just started, and it'll be over by Sunday. If I get some really interesting, Nirja, I'll forward some of those presentations across to you so that you can have a look at them.
Definitely. Maybe we can organize something very similar. We can speak to you alternatively for our students also, if you can do. I think that'll be very helpful.
Absolutely. We can figure something out.
Absolutely. We go to another question. There's Manav Tikwani asking that can the knowledge of product management be applied in marketing domain as well?
Absolutely. So one of the things that a product manager definitely has to do is GTM, go to market. And go to market is across
Sir,
products.
actually, what I mean to ask is that can the knowledge of product management be applied in every marketing domain? Like in marketing, we have a number of different domains like social media
Yes.
marketing, digital marketing, customer is
Let's take an Manav.
customer.
I want to do another social experiment, right? Let's start with something. So let's start a conversation. So which product do you want to? So say, give me an example where you think you want me to give you a product management perspective to it. Can you cite something that you think that here we cannot do product management?
Product management.
Give me any
where
example.
where we cannot do product management.
No, give me any example and I'll. Okay, so it's not for Manav, right? Anyone who's on video, I don't want people who are off video to ask me questions. Anyone who's on video, if you want to just give an example where you think, let's talk about marketing of this particular thing.
Sir, let's take an example of an textile industry.
So what exactly in
industry.
textile industry you want to take? What example do you want to take in textile industry?
Let's take an example of an retail outlet who are selling product
Okay.
into garment.
So in terms of a textile industry, I come from a finance background. If I'm going, domain wise, functionally, if I'm going wrong, please do correct me. But my understanding is that there are two areas in terms of, so either you are a manufacturer or you are a seller, right? There are only these two, and then you may have sub parts to it. So here we're talking about not the manufacturing bit, but the selling bit of the product, right?
Yes, sir.
And the question then, okay, so I just over the weekend went to two shops. I had to buy, there's a wedding coming up and I had to buy shirts, right? So I'll take an example, a real-time example where product management would have really made a difference. So I went to this store, BlackBerry, which is one of the more premium stores where you can buy formal shirts, right? And they would do a lot of other things also. But I had gone there. Being someone on the heavier side, my shirt size is 46, moving to 47, sometimes 48, depending on the brands. So when I went to, and I was looking for a very specific shade of purple. As usual, right? You go with your spouses, your sisters, blah, blah, blah. They'll have their dupatta and you try to match it with it. So that's what I was doing. And I went to the store and I asked them for shirt for my size. They said they do have my size. I was very happy. I tried in one, it fit well. So I said, okay, do you have something of this color? And then the guy who was at the sales counter started suggesting me dark color shirts. Sir black le lo, Sir purple le lo. Why? Because the products that he had, Nischay, Manav, were all only those colors for my size or lighter shades which were not matching my dupatta, right? The dupatta that I was trying to match to. Cut to, I went to Arrow. They've actually rebranded their store. Now they call it, I think they call it an A Club, Club A or something like that, where they have merged a lot of their brands together. And there I had a very different experience where instead of taking me to the place where he wanted to show me the shirt, he actually came to me and asked, okay, he asked me my name. He said, Rakesh sir, why, how can I help you? What are you looking for? So then I told him, and I'm looking for a shirt. I was already frustrated in the BlackBerry store, right? And I had come down and then I told him, okay, you know what? This is what I'm looking for. This is my size. Do you have it? Else me chala, right? And then they said, no, we have it. Why don't you come with us? And then he asked me to get the dupatta. He went and the bag was actually submitted. He got the bag to me. We took out the dupatta. He looked at it. He said, okay, this is a very different color. I have a few that you can match. And then he showed me the products. He said, for these, I can order it online. So what has he done? He's built that customer experience for me, right? And one of the key areas that product managers do is build that customer experience. Because at the end of the day, your customer is going to use your product only if you build them a great experience. Someone who's a marketing is someone who would actually try to sell that experience. But as a product manager, you have to build that experience. And often or not, marketing folks do build it as well. And this is where product management comes in, right? You have to understand your product really well, but you'll have to also understand your customer and their needs. the difference between two brands that I just saw was this very area that is seldom looked at, which is what is the customer looking for? And to give an opportunity for the customer to actually think a little more. You know, what won me over in the Arrow store? The fact that he gave me not just 46, but he also gave me 48, and he said, you know what, this is not going to fit you, but why don't you try it out? And whatever looks better for you, then we can get that together. And he gave me the shades of whatever I was looking for. It didn't match what I needed, of course, but I ended up buying 4 shirts from Arrow. 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. 4 of them. Right? That's the difference. So as a product, you have to remember that customer experience is as important as actually selling the product to the customer and the customer using the product. Manav, I hope that kind of answered your question. This is just one area, right? Any area. You can even say about how Shubman Gill played in this last test, right? Even that can be built up as a somewhere where you can use product management. And we can take the conversation for a later time because not everyone may like cricket. But any area where there are products and services being sold, product managers play equally important role as someone who's from marketing. Because there is a specific role called a marketing product manager as well. So remember, at the end, your core should remain the same. No matter which role you pick up, if your core is strong, because one thing that Neerja didn't tell all of you is I didn't start with an intern product management when I finished Soil. When I finished Soil, I became a business analyst. Oh, business analyst. Business analyst is product management. Business analyst, but I started doing product management when I started business analyst. And from a business analyst to a senior business analyst to a lead business analyst to a senior product manager. That was my trajectory of growth. So no one stops you to get into product management at whatever roles. Remember that once you build the craft, you plug in that craft and that's how you're going to do it. And I came from investment banking to neo banking and business and commercial banking, which is very different. But if you have the ability to learn, to adapt, you can build some great products for your company that you join. I hope that answers your question. It's taken a longer than expected, but
Okay.
Neerja, over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir.
Great. Thanks, Manav and Nisha, for asking those two questions. Absolutely right. There are also, as the competition is getting tougher, a lot of times the shortlist becomes a major issue for a lot of them, right? As we speak, there was a company for the PGPM program as well for the product management. And again, shortlisting of profiles. So what are the typical things that should be definitely inserted in the resume to ensure that there are highest chances of selection if they want to get themselves interviewed for product management roles?
It's a very pertinent question. So many a time you don't have the experience. If you have the experience, of course, you'll put in your resume that will get you shortlisted. But what if you don't have the experience? If you don't have the experience, you define certain areas that you know that you will do well. So can you do a product tear down? Can you create a product portfolio? You know what a product portfolio is? Any product manager you see on LinkedIn, apart from me, of course, I don't have a portfolio. I'm working on it. But you will see a lot of them posting a link to their product portfolio where they would look at different products and the customer journey and the UI UX design and how they've solved problems. And these are not real life problems, right? Because once you start working in a company, you will work with clients, you will have client confidentiality, so you can't really share them outside. So I can't tell them what great products that I have been part of in my entire career. But what I can tell you is the learning. And when you start picking up problems and when you start solving them on your own, you will start having those problems reflected so to document them. So you can go on Medium and do it. You can go on Notion, right? Which is a very great tool that you can use to create a product portfolio. There are just go Google, right? And you will know so many different tools that currently allow you to create such portfolios. So one very important thing that you should do is start working on this in parallel, right? But coming to your resume, please don't add jargons you don't know about. Don't say I've done 0 to 1, 1 to n for products until you know what is 0 to 1 of product management and 1 to n for product lifecycle. Know about what the JD is. So I know this has been recorded. I hope, Nirja, you don't share it to a wider audience outside this. And this is only limited to our soil family, right? One thing that I'll tell you, right, is one, please go on LinkedIn, go on Naukri, um, go on all these job portals and start looking at roles you are aspiring to get into. Say you want to get into associate product manager role, right? Because you're just starting out, you don't have experience, you want to get into this role. Start looking at the JDs, right? Once you look at the JDs, you'll understand, okay, there are 4-5 key areas that they would expect an associate product management to do. Now you try to map yourself to say, okay, out of these 8 or 10 things that is expected, how many do I match? How many I can pick up, right? And you try to look at what you've done in your past experience, in your projects, in the learnings to kind of depict that in your resume. The best way to do it is to write about, you can take a product and start actually using those knowledge capabilities into those. Like one very important thing is to know how to create a user persona or how to create a user journey map, right? So why can't you take a product like a, you know, any product that you use, like Zerodha, or it can be a WhatsApp. So how customers get onboarded into WhatsApp? Build a customer journey around it. That gives you enough talking points in the interview while you put that in your resume as well, that you know how to do this, you've done this for this project, you can put it as part of your project experience, not as a work experience but project experience. You can also look at some other key areas like um, what soft skills you want to bring in, what is the kind of areas that you want to focus on in your interview. You can start adding those as clear talking points. One very important, I'm sure that at Soil, you've not stopped doing this. So there are a lot of projects that you get in different courses that you do. Why can't you bring in product principles to when you are building those courses? One. Second, you have the annual, there are a lot of these events that students, you all work together to run, right? Like the Inspired Leadership Conference or similar, right? There's so many different of them. So I'm sure you can utilize a lot of these concepts there. Like I said, right? The product management is a craft. It's not something like, it's not like a .NET or a Java or drawing something on a piece of paper. It's a craft that you build, and the knowledge that you get is what you utilize in your work. And that is what you need to showcase in your resume. That will help you definitely get shortlisted, because these key jargons is what those companies look for. Not all of them. Don't write everything because you found it, but write what is more that what aligns to you. Be a true, honest version of yourself in your resume, so that when you go for an interview, because you've gotten shortlisted, they look at you the same way they've looked at your resume. Over to you, Nisha.
Right. Any last minute, words of advice that you'd like to give them, and how can they be in touch with you? Of course, we're going to be re-inviting you very soon for the product tear down that you mentioned. So anything that you'd like to tell them?
Okay, so my word of advice.
And I'm so sorry,
was-
one last thing, that,
Yeah.
a lot of them are worried about their internships. They're all worried about, like you said, that you didn't start your journey as a product manager. You actually started as a BA, as a business analyst. So I know it's easier said than, when they're experiencing. So a lot of them are very scared, very worried about their internship project. So keeping that in mind, any piece of advice that you'd like to give them?
Okay, so take away the role with the knowledge. What does that mean? The craft, which is business analysis or marketing or product management or finance. Keep that away from the designation of that role. Business analyst, project manager, marketing analyst. Keep that away and just look at the core of what is needed and start understanding what this role is. Like I said, always start with a why, right? Because one of the things that makes people happy to converse with you is when you show interest in them. And Nirja, I charge people for this advice, right? But I'm just telling this for free because all of them are from Soil. Remember that people need to be vested in you, right? If I am talking to Jia, if I'm talking to Weber, if I'm talking to some of the other people who are on the call, right? Yeah, Asta or even Harshit for that matter, or even Nirja for that matter. If you remember Nirja, I started with something that is very close to you, something that made you smile, right? So even when you talk to your product, your project leads in your internship, or even when you're talking in the interview, remember that it's your conversation. They need to like you. They need to see the value of having you on board. That conversation needs to come from honesty and integrity and complemented with knowledge and zero ego and a lot of hard work. Even today, so yesterday there was a product tear down session and it was for people who were aspiring product who wanted to, who wanted to convert jobs and who wanted to get into internship positions. It was led by some very different team and I don't know them. And all I asked on the chat group was, can I listen in? And they said, yeah, everyone's invited. So I went in, I listened to the conversation, I learned something. And then when they sent the form to register, I realized that they don't take people who are already working as senior product manager into product tear down competition. But there was a new learning for me. So remember, your internship is a learning experience. Remember the role that you want to get to at the end of this program. And everything that you do should there should be this path that should lead to that end goal. It's a marathon. It's not a T20 game. It is a 5-day test match. So you'll have to play every day with the same dedication for you to win that test match. It's a marathon, right? 21, 42 kilometers. Half marathon is 21, 42 kilometers. So every kilometer that you run, it has to be with the same dedication as you are doing with the final one to the milestone. If you are able to do that, then whoever is looking at you as potential hire in their organization will see value. It's very simple, right? If you have 100 rupees and you want this money to grow, what will you do with it? Will you give it to someone who says, yeah, give it to me, I'll make it 3 times and give it back to you? Will you just give it to someone like that? Will you give someone 100 rupees with that confidence that 100 rupees will become 300 rupees in 7 days? Will you give it? No. You will give, if I increase the amount to 1 crore, 100 crores, that's what happens with businesses, right? They look at people because they want that amount that they've invested on you to grow. And if you're not bringing that value in the work that you do, then they'll not even think of having you in the organization. So start looking at this internship as opportunities for you to learn. Don't look at it as a potential opportunity to get converted into a role. That will come. Money will come. Job will come. If you put in that effort. And finishing Soil, getting your placement, getting into an organization shouldn't be your end goal. It should be your starting point. Because the journey starts after this. This is like a prelim. This is like a trial run of what you'll do actually in the world. So build that knowledge, competence, and then once you step in, you deliver. And you deliver that kind of a value where someone that you don't even expect will come and tell you that, you know what, Rhythm, you've done a great job, right? Right? Prachi, you are wonderful in the work that you do. You deliver the best value, right? That is the value. That is the thing that you'll have to focus on. So that is it, Nirja. That's all I can share from my side.
Absolutely, absolutely.
On the look, sir. On the look.
All right, great. So that's a wrap. There's just one last question if you're fine with taking that. This is Angel's question. And Angel, if you're still there, you can unmute. She's saying that does tech knowledge give an edge in product management interview? Any softwares we can explore online?
There are so many softwares. How many will you explore? Right? I would say so there are three areas where the focus is these days. Focus area number one is cloud. So understand what cloud is. So cloud is not the one from where you get rain, right? I hope everyone understands when I mean cloud, it's not the one in the sky. Cloud is where you store your data, where it does processing, where your apps run, right? So understand about what's the difference between AWS, Google, Azure, so on, right? There's so many different cloud providers that you will need to understand. Start looking at those, start understanding the basics of it, number one. This is area number one that a lot of these companies are looking for. They need product managers who can tell them what these are. Because technical team will know what this is, but how will you join the business and how will you do that marriage between business and technical, right? This is the area. Two, and the second most important thing is user experience. So understand what user experience is. So user experience is not user interfacing. It's not about just how a screen looks. Have you ever wondered why does a door handle move downwards all the time? Why not upwards? Have you ever thought why does the door handle, those round handles move clockwise and not anti-clockwise? Why does the door always move inwards and not outwards? Those are user experiences. User experiences, how user interacts with the system and not really the way it looks. So build your competence on user experience. One of the key areas of user experience will be user personas and user journeys. That will really help. And last, but definitely the most important is understand what generative AI is. And not ChatGPT. Generative AI is much more bigger, vast than ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just the start. So understand what generative AI is, how it's transforming the world today. There are a lot of courses, videos available about generative AI. Don't go and search ChatGPT, Bard, XYZ. Learn about generative AI. Because one of the things that will be the next big thing is to build competence in generative AI. Google has some great courses, freely available courses on generative AI. Microsoft has also done something free because Google did it free. Microsoft also had to be in the game. So take that opportunity, do those courses. It's not very complicated. You will need to do it anyway. And that should help you. That should help you with whatever you think is needed and whatever delta you think is needed for having those conversations. Conversations only. It will not make you an expert in it. You will know what it is, right, Angel? So that will help you to better answer a question when it is posed at you of what this is, or to weave an answer where you will bring this in, right? So that is my answer to you, Angel. I hope that gave you some level of clarity. Can't hear you. There is audio which is not there between us.
Thank you, sir. It
Yeah,
answered my question.
awesome. Thanks, Angel.
Great. Thank you so much, I think, for your time. And thanks everyone for joining, even though I'm so sorry that all of them could not put their videos on and some of them didn't join. So that's the back end part, which I think we'll deal with them. But thank you so much for your time and, hope to see you again very soon. And of course, please do share those product tear down videos that you were talking about. We'll certainly share it with the students as well.
Yeah, so definitely I will do that, Nirja, and I'm also putting my LinkedIn
Yes,
profile
please.
link on chat.
Yes, we had
Uh,
shared the students, but yes, please.
if they want to reach out to me for any advice, any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I will always answer. I may not answer immediately. If you need something really urgent, just tag me on it and I will definitely respond. But always here for soil, always here to help people who ask for it.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And thanks everyone for joining. Take care. Good night.
Thank-
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you, ma'am.
everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great
Yes,
evening.
sir.
Thank you,
Bye
ma'am.
bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Bye.